It's Tracy, and I asked on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, which if you're not following me, you totes should. Link is in the description bar. I asked for video ideas because my notebook that I have was kind of running dry on some magic ideas, and then you guys gave me a ton of cool ideas, which is also awesome by the way, because then I do videos that you want to see. But I got a ton of ideas, and one question that I thought was super interesting that someone gave me the idea for is magic formats I don't play and why. And I thought that was such a cool question. I was like, I'm gonna make a video about that because that's I think really interesting. And I think, you know, the question tends to be what formats do you play and not what formats don't you play and why. So if you're new to my channel or you just kind of want a refresher on what's going on, my main format is Commander EDH. Absolutely love that. However, I have a soft spot in my heart for Modern. I love making Modern videos. If it's deck techs or just tip videos, general things about Modern. With that being said, I have not been playing Modern recently. I have not been playing competitive Magic, and my goal is to get back into it. My goal is to actually sit down and figure out what deck I want to play, and that is my current dilemma, which I'm still up in the air about, and that's a whole separate issue, and I'm not going to get into that here. But those are my two things. Have I played other formats before? I mean, okay, and I guess going along with this, I have in the past, I've done Sealed, and I've played a Draft, and I really like Draft a lot. I haven't, again, played Draft recently, so I'm not gonna talk about those because those are the ones I play, but I'm gonna talk about other formats and why I don't play them. And I'm gonna say that a lot of the formats and why I don't play them is because of lack of information about these formats. I don't know that much about them. Even though I have friends in the Magic community who do play these formats. So I first want to start with Standard, and I feel like Standard gets a lot of hate, and I am totally one of those people who hates on Standard, and I make fun of Standard totally. I think the thing with Standard that I don't like, and I think a lot of people don't like this, is that the cards change too frequently, and I feel like you invest in a deck, and I feel like it changes too much, and I feel like you need, and you're kind of required to know about all of the formats. And honestly, in my future, when I have more time with my life and I'm not working 50 plus hours a week, I think it would be super awesome to get to know more formats, and Standard is definitely something I've considered many times. I hate on it, but it's a joking hate. I think it's super cool, those people who play Standard and those people who can keep up with it, because I think it requires a lot of patience and a lot of understanding all of the different cards, because I feel like you could see a card that you have absolutely no idea what card it does, you know, from three formats, from three, sets later that you're whoa, I forgot this card existed. So I think it's too much of an adjustment for me. It's too wishy-washy, and I'm someone who likes to change my decks up, so it sounds like I should like Standard, but it's just not something I can dip my feet into. Though I have to say, when I used to be really into watching Magic coverage, I watched the Standard Pro Tour, and I really enjoyed watching it. So it's not, I'm just not in a phase right now in my life where I just have the patience to realistically watch coverage. I'm just not in that place again where I'm in that mindset of competitive Magic where I want to watch Magic. Maybe one day, again, we'll get there when I'm not crazy working a million hours a week. But yeah, I do definitely appreciate Standard, and I eventually want to get myself into it. I think if I were to play, I think I could realistically see and this wasn't a part of the question, but I'm just gonna add this in. If what I'd play, I think if I was in Standard, probably something with Planeswalkers, if that was a possibility, because I think that's really cool. Potentially some Control, but I kind of think I do aggro, to be completely honest, and I feel like that's a lot for me to say that, because in competitive formats, I really like Control, so who realistically knows? Okay, that's Standard. Now I'm gonna talk about Legacy and Vintage, and I'm gonna kind of combine them. My main issue with Legacy and with Vintage, and again, I know people who play these formats, is the cost. I think that's really intimidating. I've always viewed Legacy in particular as a very intimidating format, and it's kind of funny because I feel like some people who maybe play Legacy but don't play Modern think Modern is an intimidating format. I've always viewed Legacy as a very format that you can kind of kill your opponent without warning, and I didn't like that. I don't like that. I think like Storm, for example. I mean, Storm in Modern can go off and kill you on like turn 1. I mean, that happens, and I'm sure that happens. I feel like I have it in my head that Legacy does that a lot more frequently than some place like Modern. Like, again, you have turn 4 kills in Modern, that totally happens, but I think I've always viewed Legacy as something that's been really like a quick type of deck. And again, I just think I'm very like scared to get into that format, and I don't think I could ever see myself getting into it. However, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think if I were to play a deck, honestly, it would probably be Affinity. I've always had an appreciation for Affinity. It has always been something that I've been really fascinated with. I just really like it, and I think it's just a really sweet deck, and I totally love to play that deck. I don't know if I'd commit to it, but I totally love to pilot it. I think it's really interesting, because like I think I told you guys, I played Affinity, oh my god, this was a really long time ago, like a year and a half ago or whatever. I like played my good friend Justin's deck, and it was a ton of fun, and I was like, this is so cool. I think we changed Modern decks for a night is what I think happened, and it was so cool. Maybe we did, maybe I just played that deck and he played Delver. Also, I don't know that much about control decks in Modern. I think Forcible sounds like a really sweet card to cast. I think I'd definitely be into casting a card like that. I don't know, again, that much about Control. I know I do not want to do Delver. I don't like that card at all. I've heard it's much better in Legacy, but I don't like that card. Another deck I think is really cool is Death and Taxes. I've always had kind of like an appreciation for that deck. I don't really like its place in Modern. I don't think it's that great. I think it can be great. I don't know, maybe right now it's just not good, but I think in Legacy, I think it's really sweet. I mean, you get to run like super awesome cards. So I think another thing too is, I think like there's a lot of cards that I just don't like. I remember I played Legacy like once. I don't even know if I talked about this, but I played Legacy like once. I played like Burn, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no idea what all these people's cards did. It was really intimidating, and I think just the lack of knowledge. I think just having to learn another format like Legacy, that's really scares me. And again, the same thing with Vintage. I don't know anything about Vintage, so I'm not even gonna really go there. Okay, what else can I like talk about? What I'm looking at all these formats, and some of these I've like honestly just never even heard of before. Like, what? And I totally realized I'm probably not gonna talk about all these formats because that would be like, this video would be 9 years, so I'm not gonna do that. Okay, let's talk about Pauper. Like, what is Peasant? I don't even know what that means. Let's talk about Pauper. I think that format is so unique and cool, and something I always tend to find, just because I've played Draft before. I used to play Draft, like I used to draft like a ton. I find that, again, people get super focused on rares and mythics. Like, oh my god, like, especially, that's one thing that really kind of bothers me, I think, a lot about when people do videos about the sets coming out, is they focus so much on the rares and mythics, and I always feel like I try to tend to focus on the commons and uncommons, because the bulk of your deck are going to be those things. If you're doing sealed, you're opening like 7 rares or mythics, potentially more depending on your foil situation. But realistically, the bulk of your deck are commons and uncommons. It's really important to talk about those things, and I think that's why I like Pauper a lot, because I think I always tend to find the value in really good commons and uncommons. I think that's something I try to do in my videos, and something I try to do whenever I draft. So I think in that sense, I think Pauper is super interesting. I would have to totally do research though. I don't think this is a format I would just ever play. I'm just gonna say that. I don't think, I think it'd be super interesting, but not something I really, know that much about. And again, people who play it, that's super cool. If you like that, I think that's great. One thing I don't see on here, maybe I'm just actually missing it, but a format that I know some people do play, Tiny Leaders. I don't know, maybe it has like another name that I don't know what the name of it is. But Tiny Lead. I'm looking at this list, if you're wondering like what I'm looking at, this list of like all Magic formats. Tiny Leaders. Again, I think it's similar to Pauper, and I have my similar views on it, is that I think it really forces you to like look at specific type of cards, where something like EDH, you have like basically unlimited cards. And I think that's why I like EDH so much, is because it's such a, a vast pool of cards that you get to pick from. And I just think that's awesome. And what I like about playing with like Paul, for example, who's like the main person I play against, is like, we'll run cards that like maybe aren't the most common EDH cards, like that you'd expect in like a more competitive type of sense. But yeah, Tiny Leaders. I think again, I think it captures you, it forces you in a bubble. It says you can only run cards, you know, that are X CMC. It's like 3, I believe, CMC in tiny liters for your commander, and then I think all the cards. I think it's just a little bit too limiting for me. I think, that's the point. I understand that it's limited. It's funny I'm saying that where other formats I like that are more limited, but I think tiny liters is just a little bit too much. I think I have too many EDH staples that I would need to unfortunately cut if I were to play tiny liters, and I don't know if I could commit to that. If you know anything about me in Magic, you know that I'm the absolute queen of removal, and if I don't have board wipes, I'm not a happy Tracy, and a lot of board wipes tend to be like 4, 5, 6 plus mana, and if I can't run those, I don't really like things like that. Board wipes are like my total crutch against the world, so if I can't run them, yeah, not okay with me. But again, I think there's a lot of people who play tiny liters, and I think that's super cool. I know a couple of my friends were trying to get me to build one, and I was like, oh, really no. So, but with that, with that note though, what I will say is I do have my 5-color ladies deck, which is super awesome, and I run strictly ladies, and what I do in that deck is I do run a lot of ladies who are like 2, 3 mana that, yeah, I couldn't give you like a number on like what, but I do run a lot of ladies in that deck that are lower mana cost, and I think that's like super cool. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. Star, I guess I'll just, I don't know, that's not like really a format, but I guess it's like a form of like EDH. Like Arch Enemy and like things like that. I think I'm just gonna like leave that off there. If you guys want me to do like a second part where I talk about like other things, I can talk about that. Like cubes and stuff like that, because I have stuff to say about that. But I'm just gonna like leave this off here. That is it. I will see you guys next week on Tuesday for my Magic video, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!